It's not only the dreams of a nation, but it's the players that want to get to the World Cup, and they know that this is the big hurdle for their automatic qualification. But in order to get there, they have to beat Morocco. But let's take a look at this Morocco side and how they set up, how they've gotten here without conceding a goal, what they look like in front of goal. Linda,
yeah, in as much as they're a team that hasn't conceded in the tournament, but that's where they leave spaces snings up. You know, where El Haj, the number 17, is operating. She's already got 3 assists. That should tell you, Uti, she's attack-minded. You know, she's always in the opposition's half playing crosses. So every time they could be Banyana getting a transition, they need to make sure Uti, they operate and use that space. I think Utembi, with the first goal she scored against Cote d'Ivoire, that's where she was operating. So these wide areas are going to be important because they do not bring in cover, you know, when the player has the ball. And when crosses come into the box, that's where they look a bit vulnerable, you know, and even with the second balls outside the box. So it means there is a whole lot that they do wrong, especially when they are defending, because most of the time they're always on the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think Linda will be very crucial because also she always looks for space, but sometimes we would see because the defenders, you know, peel back and get closer to the goalkeeper, she's not allowed that space behind. So I think ideally if she plays more to the left, she could definitely get something out.
Well, let's take a look at another moment here, using the tog, of course, where now Banyana Banyana, this is a moment against Ivory Coast, and this is the space you speak of.
Yeah,
this is certainly the space we're speaking about, where you see Utembi Kgatlana using, you know, that space that is left by the fullback. So if Utembi can operate in these positions, because their defensive line plays a high line, they're a team that moves together in attack and they move together in defense. But if you look at how this goal came about is having a focal point that is going to pin the defenders, making it difficult for them to, you know, to cover the fullback position where El Haj will be playing higher up the field. But you look at the quality Yaga Tembi, you know, an international player. She's got so many goals. She knows her way around the box. When she receives the ball in this instance, whereas with Alaska, after Lapo, takes a shot, you know, individual brilliance. That's what we need, you know, from Bafana strikers today.
Yeah, I think also just what you mentioned, Linda, not only from Utembi, but for Magai as well, because she's very good playing wide to bring in the ball. So it's going to be very crucial for the Moroccans as well to make sure that as much as Batatumut Bamisa Pambil, they need to bring her back. But Andy, just looking at this squad, Morocco, I think also this is one of the very fortunate teams because I think they have depth all around, you know, from players that they bring on. You see that Otegnot has come in replacing Ujraida, who is the top goal scorer in the squad right now, yeah, because they have multiple goal scorers as well, which is one of their strengths because they, out of the 5 goals they've scored, 4 of them have dominated, and you have Ujraida with 2. So Ushabak, like I mentioned, for me, her being there, Rabat as well. We also saw Ozrao, who has been very crucial and very important in the past few. Yeah, and I think that's also going to give a lot of headache to Umagama on the back because that means she's going to have to be solid in how she operates, knowing when to be close to the player, when to give her space, but also just proper communication with the defense.
Yeah, but I think it's also good that coach keeps the consistency of Swart in goals. You know, she's had a clean sheet in the last game, so she comes into this game with confidence. But it's good to see Umagama. Umagama in the first game didn't play, but she's grown into the game. In the second game, started off a bit shaky, but grew into the game, gave a second assist, and even in the last game, with that solitary goal, was an assist from Umagama. So those wide areas are going to be key because that's where Ozrai and Msodi, you know, operate. But seeing how we set up today, 1-4-3-3, it's going to be key for Urifulejane, Linda Mutlalo, Mutao, to make sure that they cover the wide areas every time Umagama goes higher up the field. So in those instances, they need to make sure that cover that it distancing will be too big, you know, for our fullbacks who go up to overload in the wide areas so that they don't track and cover long distances going back to their positions. So that midfield 3 will be important to cover those areas.
Yeah.
Well, their previous meeting is the only one that we know at WAFCON, of course, which was back in 2022 in the final, and we won that match. So, umbuzo-ke abazobuza baseMzantsi Afrika ukuthi niyabasaba na? Hayi cha, sesike sabahla. Well, here it is. Destiny awaits. On the other side of 90 minutes will be either tears or smiles and jubilations. Victory awaits for one of these teams and a place in the World Cup in Brazil. Linda, you've told me everything I need to know. Where does that put me?
I'd give it to Banyana Banyana 1-0.
As expected. Thank you. We appreciate that.
It's going to be very difficult. I'm not going to lie, we've seen the attack at Morocco, so I think they're going to come at us, and our defenders are always going to need to be on their toes. So this is going to be a difficult one, even to predict. I just don't want extra time.
Extra time. This is one that Banyana are going to be playing in for the first time in the tournament that's got a stadium full of fans, of course. We have been playing to empty stadiums. Hopefully, that's not going to deter what's about to happen in 90 minutes. A victory, surely, certain for Banyana Banyana.
السيدات والسادة بيرجع الوقوف في حالة القدرة للنشيد الوطني لمنتخب جنوب أفريقيا. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand if you are able for the national anthem of South Africa.
Well, 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 this is the moment we've all been waiting for. The moment of reckoning for two familiar foes. It's Morocco versus South Africa for a semi-final place in this year's Women's Africa Cup of Nations, but also, most crucially, for a World Cup ticket to Brazil. If you could choose the best showcase of African women's football, this is the match you'd choose. And this is how the pride of Morocco line up. Irmichi has been in stellar form for Morocco. This Moroccan defense untouched. They have not conceded a goal so far in this year's tournament, and that midfield also remains unchanged. The only change from the Senegal game is up top. Traidi, despite her goals, drops to the bench. Taknaout featured in the 2022 final, and she starts tonight alongside Uzraoui on the right-hand side and Msudi, who got the goal against Algeria. I'm not alone tonight. Tulimia, you and I were together when Banyana Banyana battled past Argentina, battled past Italy in the World Cup Down Under. We were there when they had their hearts broken in the previous Women's Africa Cup of Nations, and it's another big one tonight.
Umdlalo omkhulu kakhulu ngempela kuona omabili amazwe njengoba omabili efuna indawo lapha emhlalweni yendebe yomhlaba ngonyaka ozayo eBrazil. Iqembu lase Ningizimu Afrika liza kulomdlalo abantu abaningi bayalingabaza ngoba emdlalweni edlule izinto bezingahambi kahle, i-tournament abayiqalanga kahle kodwa bafike banqoba emdlalweni wokugcina kuma-group stages, ingakho namhlanje bezibona bela. Nanka ukapteni wethu Refilwe Jane njengoba enza ithosi kanjalo no-Chepakho. Siphatha lo mdlalo namhlanje uyena lapha uJosephine obuya ezweni lase-Kenya, usizwa uyena u-Alice Omutesi obuya ezweni lase-Rwanda kanjalo no-Elizabeth Jongore obuya khona ezweni lase-Kenya. iNingizimu Afrika emapalini obuyile uKaylin Swart lapha emuva benze inguquko ngoba namhlanje kuqala uBongeka Gamede. Karabo Dlamini bamthatha bambuyisela ngakwesonxele, uMaponya bamthatha bambeka ebhentshini, uFifi ukhona, Linda Mohlalo ukhona, Amogelang Motawo namhlanje uyawuqala othatha indawo ka-Isabella Ludwig. Lapha phambili ebreadwinner ikhona, Thembi Khatlana ukhona, bese kuba uNoxolo uCesane. Ilona-ke iqembu namhlanje leli, amathemba wonke aseNingizimu Afrika asemahlombe abo ukuthi athathe ilizwe alifake lapha emdlalweni yendebe yomhlaba. Badlala noSokhaya, inkundla igcwele, abalandeli baseMorocco bazobeseka ilizwe labo laseMorocco. Josephine Wanjiku nange ishaya injoba yakhe, othi ongapheli kuyahlola, uyawuqeda umdlalo. Iduma liyayithatha iNingizimu Afrika ezweni laseMorocco, ibuyisa induku iMorocco. Amagoli amabili ikwelodwa njengoba idlulela phambili kuma-semi-finals. iMorocco iyahamba futhi izoba elinye ilizwe lase-Afrika elizodlala kwindebe yomhlaba ngonyaka ozayo. Osokhaya laba ilizwe laseMorocco banqoba umdlalo 2, iMorocco 1 iNingizimu Afrika. Goli lokuqala uZraoui asebethola ipenalty, Elhaji walibeka phakathi, Thembi Khatlana washaya elokubika ekhaya. I-full time score 2 iMorocco 1 iNingizimu Afrika.
Ake intwa yenhliziyo nengqondo, intwa yeminyaka engeke iphele manje. La ukuthi kona inhliziyo ithi ngisala la ngihlala la, yila fanele ngibe ngikhona lana. Ingqondo ibithi ngiyasibona isikole, singidedele, singikhululile, singigodusile. Kwabanye ithi siyaqhubeka, zizwana inhliziyo nengqondo. Nawu kumehluko into oyibonayo ke namhlanje Ramalephe engene nje ku half time ubona uMakashane ke e-celebrate isihlungu sebhola ke lesi. Yona into esiyithandayo ke ibhola lobhutshuzwayo, ibhola elikhaba ngenyawo. It's the beauty of the game we love. It's the sadness of the neighbor celebration, all in one. 2-1 is the final score. Thembi Khatlana scores the goal, very much like she did in 2018 when she scored in 3 consecutive matches. But this time around, it's Chinovane, it's Morocco, the home team that progressed. Banyana Banyana, that automatic place to the World Cup, gone. But for Morocco, they're going to the World Cup again. 2-1 at the end of full time. Banyana coming back home, Linda.
Yeah, seeing Dlamini in picture, I think she had a great game. You know, tried to neutralize Ozraoui. But for Banyana, I don't think it was a great tournament. Seeing how we played the first game, losing to Tanzania. Second game, yes, we came back to play a draw after trailing 2-0 in the first half. And the last game, you know, scoring just one shot at target and that being a goal just sums it up to say this wasn't one of our best tournaments. Maybe it speaks to preparation, you know, before the tournament, because I think the only friendly we played, competitive friendly we played, was against Japan. You know, sad for the ladies, but it's the end of the road.
Yeah, I think also for me, Linda, we spoke about the number of players that are locally based. And then we look at the fact that Ilikia started late, Hollywood Bats, you know, also just speaking of competitive football, we did not have enough competition just going to the WAFCON, because I did say, Guti, they did play against Algeria, they also played against Japan, but what happened thereafter? You know, did we have anything, you know, of substance that could possibly prepare us for what's coming? And I think it's evident that, we did not have enough of that. But also I think for me, you know what, heads up for the players, because there's still another opportunity, even though it's going to be a longer journey. We would have loved for them to qualify, and also just, being the former champions as well, in 2022, it would have been good for them to just continue and just get it automatically instead of now trailing. But also I think, Andile, it speaks to the beauty of women's football, which has grown continentally. And I think for me, it's also just something for all of us to be proud of, to see that it's not always an obvious situation anymore, because now everybody's coming to play, and they are coming to compete because they want to show that they are the best at it as well.
We're going to go back and talk about Benzina. She is the player of the match, the central defender, centre-back, who has come out as the best player of this game. But it could have been El Hadji, it could have been Ozraoui. So many great players on the pitch. Take a look at the stats. South Africa dominating in position. A lot of this we're going to have to do with perhaps the last 15 minutes, when the ones were trying to consolidate, when the others were going gung-ho for it. But the stats that matter at the top, 2-1. And perhaps the shots on goal as well as the total shots overall.
Yeah, I think stats improved in the second half. I think we came back a better team. We started to apply ourselves more, put Morocco on the back foot. But at that time, I think Morocco also, were defending their lead. You can even see from the passes, 402 passes, and just the accuracy in that. I think we failed, with the final pass to be clinical, and just finish off. So the last chance, Yara Doneli, where you think, just the control and put it on target. But it wasn't to be. I think Utembi, tried her best, but it wasn't to be.
Well, it's 2-1, and Banyana Banyana crash out. And with that being said, it does mean that it's not automatic qualification to the World Cup in Brazil in 2027, of course. But we've got to speak about Tembi. She's been an absolute warrior. Go 2018, kuma group stages, wakora magola zaba mathathu elandelana imidlalo elandelana. Uyenzile futhi leyo nto ekora imidlalo emithathu elandelana. At some point, though, perhaps for too long of the game, you felt like she was a little isolated up front.
Yeah, I think Tembi is one of those players that is always hungry to score goals, which is something that is very rare, especially in women's football. Every time I told Bola, she's trying to look forward. But I think, Andile, perhaps the reason she was isolated is because she did not get a lot of support, because sometimes we saw her going to the left or to the right, like this instance, and normally we would expect her to be the person that's receiving the ball in that area, which is closer to goalkeeper and central defenders. So she also has the hunger so much that she ends up going to take the responsibility for herself. But I think also one of the things that we have seen continuously with her, maybe also it's got to do with her speed. She finds herself in a lot of offside positions, which also just disallows her the opportunities that she creates and convert in most cases. But then again, for me, I think she's an incredible player all round. Also, I saw with some of the substitutions, Robin Moodley came in, which I felt was a better individual versus Ukesani and Linda, but also maybe from coach that was too delayed in the replacement that they made. Perhaps had they made those replacements a bit earlier, then it was going to be a bit of a difference, Linda, because what I also picked up is that versus Morocco always had numbers in the box, and South Africa not so much. It was always in ones, in twos, sometimes Dlamini bringing in the ball, but you're not finding anybody in the 18 yards. So maybe that's also something we need to work on when it comes to the final, in the final box.
If I was to divide this match into sixes and to sixth, the first sixth of it would be the first 15 minutes of the game. We're very dominant tonight. Umbane even almost scoring an acrobatic in the first half. The last 15 minutes, again, great. Speaking of which, let's go to that first 15 minutes, because this way we get a corner, because we were pressing them and they were giving us the respect.
Yeah, something we didn't expect, but you look well taken corner by Orifile Jani. And Umbane, always good, especially in attacking set pieces. We saw the goal she scored, equalizing goal she scored against Tanzania. But that overhead kick, wasn't on target. But that just tells you that every time she goes forward. But I think it speaks to Ama defend. Defenders are brave, abasabi. That's why even when defending, they're the ones to get to the first header. And you could even see Lapayana Guti, she was there. Didn't win the first ball, but when it came back, she was there to try and get that second shot.
Yeah, I think Bambanani incredible, especially when you look at these set pieces, but also credit should be given to Refuel as well, because her quality in her technique, I think she's also created a lot of these opportunities, but unfortunately, again, I think it's about the team going back to work on how do we finish, because yes, even if we have numbers, especially in set pieces of that nature, what do we do? How do we position ourselves? I mean, we've seen something very unique happening within Nigeria in this tournament where they group by Baburi 5, and then they wait for a ball, and then they just scatter, which also confuses the defenders, and then it creates those chances for them. So as much as we train set pieces in defense, so we stop them from coming to our goals, we also need to find a way on how do we intentionally train our players to know how to connect with Lama crosses and set pieces when we are attacking in the opposition's half.
At this point, like I said, it's Banyana Banyana on par with this Moroccan team. We're going at them. They're coming at us a little bit here as well. But it's an equal path game. And when it comes to the corners here, Refilio once again there, and you can see it does go a little wayward. She doesn't quite get it Umbani like she would have wanted it to. Had that been on target, I mean, greatest goal ever scored, isn't it? That early on in this match in Morocco versus Morocco.
And that's where the game is going, Andile. Teams now are hiring a set-piece coach, throw-in coaches, because sometimes you cannot win from open play. And it's those standard situations that would get you goals or would get you, threatening the opposition. So maybe not, moving forward, that's a game where we need to invest more. We've seen top nations have a big technical team, consisting of 20
more than the
technical
players.
team members. So that speaks to where the game is going. I remember 2018 World Cup, 30-something% of the goals were scored from set pieces. So that just tells you what it's happy, and that's the direction we are going.
100%. No, definitely, Linda, because we also spoke about in Morocco. I mean, even penalties are part of the set pieces, but we need to give credit to Ozraoui, but also Dlamini, she stood her ground, she was there, hence we also, I think, saw Ozraoui being substituted. It could also be because Dlamini was on top of her, or also coach just trying to manage her, because now should they qualify to the next round, she's going to be crucial. But for me, I think Ozraoui, Musodi, up front, Lapana, Ushebak as well played a very crucial role, because she did not feature in the first game. She came in this as a substitute and allowed Umsodi to score. She gave an assist. But for me, I think this game specifically, coach was aware that it needed a lot of experience. And I think Shebak, as a leader, as a captain, the former player of the tournament in the previous edition, she was needed and played a crucial role. And I mean, El Haj, we spoke about her as well earlier on, to say that she's one of those unique and special defenders, in the sense that she joins the attack. She has assists, sometimes even more than some of the midfield players. And that's exactly what we saw in this team. I think they have a holistic squad, and it's very interesting, just to see how they develop further.
A year is such a long time in football.
Yeah.
Because you speak about Shebak, leading goal scorer, 5 goals the last time around. This is a year ago.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, a year ago. Makes it to the final, of course, and she's the heartbeat of this team.
Yeah.
Right now, doesn't even start in that first match. She's an integral part, but she's just only a member of the squad. And you look at that, vice versa, what Banyana Banyana have done in the progression of the last 3 WAFCONs.
Yeah, and if you look at that, Utembi Khatlan, I think, does best, to pounce on that loose ball from Unakaj. Gets there, but like we said earlier, she was always isolated in those front positions. But this is what Banyana, were promising in terms of, because when Morocco gave us respect, we made sure that we used it, but we didn't use it consistently. We used it in patches and in moments, but credit to how Morocco have been going about their business. 2022 runners-up, 2024 runners-up, and now just booking a spot in the semi-finals and also qualifying for the World Cup. It means they're building something beautiful there.
What would you say is the opposite of that then for Banyana?
Yeah, definitely.
2018, 2022, 25, and now.
I think, Tina, as a nation, we are regressing, to be quite honest. You look at 2022 when we won it, we had 8 international players, and now we have 4. And of the 4 that we have, you look at like a player like Linda Mutlalo, with all due respect, she's earned 100 cap, but she didn't show up in the tournament. We've only had like Utembi Khatlane, maybe no Kamete, showing that, look, we play abroad, we always play against these top players. But now we take you, to the goal. El Haj getting her 4th assist.
Yeah, 4th assist, brilliant. But again, credit be given to Ozraidi, because we spoke about her being able to, scan and realize Uguti where she was in the moment and making the right decision, because immediately when she picked up Uguti, the goalkeeper was off the line. She didn't even have to think twice. Already she calculated the distance, the time, and the how is she going to connect with Ibola to be able to direct the trajectory. How high does it go and how far? Because easily any player in that space, already you have players around you, mhlambe azoyishaya crossbar or even go out just because we fake umoya kakhulu. But for me, I think this was brilliantly done.
Yeah, and we've talked this goal, and when you look at it, before the cross comes in, what Ozrawi does so well is scans and checks where Uswart is. Because in the last game, Uswart conceded 2 goals outside of a 6-yard box. So in this instance, already an eye is on the crosser, but still watches where Uswart is. Yeah. And when the ball comes, you think that it's just a lucky goal, but that is intentional. Already seen where goalkeeper is. Oh, she's out of her line, and when the ball comes in, let me just scoop it over, and you can see it also catches Uswart by surprise. But you look at that vision. Yeah. First, she stays onside, watches the crosser El Haj, checks Uswart, and gets a goal. That's, awareness at its best. So this is what, this level speaks to. The superiority that the players come in with, technically.
I was going to say, technically, that finish as well, not easy.
No. I mean, even Gamete, Uswart Lapana, I think she had a 4, maybe because she was caught off guard. She didn't anticipate that, no Gamete, how she moves. She didn't see that coming. They thought possibly she's going to control it first and then make a decision. But I think for her, this was one of the excellent moments in women's football that I've seen again, because she did not even think twice. She picked the spot and immediately she, correct composure, positioning, technique, everything was correct in that moment.
And I mean, many are going to look at Kaylin and say, hey, why'd you come out in there? That's just a game that she plays, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's her strength. Coming out and attacking the ball and being fierce with the forwards is just a game. We saw it again in the 36th minute. She comes out. Albeit that she's got 2 defenders that are assisting her, she still always feels the need to go out.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously you now 1-0 down. She's trying to protect her goals, but I think sometimes it's just the frustration on trying to control the situation. But what could have been easier is for her to better communicate. But also in that instance, you have 2 of your defenders going to the player. There's no need for you to commit, because ingabadlula easily with a simple deflection from either the attack or the defenders who are trying to commit themselves to try and prevent, a goal being scored. So, but again, I think it's also something that she's done so much, because especially Mabaya Pambili, she becomes a brilliant or good part of the attack, because she becomes the 4th or 5th defender who just adds numbers going forward. But now it's just the retreating sometimes that, where there's indecisiveness as well, just trying to see the distance, who is coming, and also just trying to take control of that area, because we always say to our goalkeeper, the 18-yard, it's your zone. Yeah. You dictate that. Anything and anybody that comes, even if my teammates work. And I think that's the mindset that she's got. But I think with more intelligence, she'll be able to read and understand what in certain situations, let me trust my defenders to take care of the situation, and let me step back a bit in case I need to, play a part in stopping the goal, coming to the net.
At 1-0, it's still anyone's game, really, and it's early on as well. The second half is still to play with 45 minutes to go, but early on, 48th minute, Linda, a little bit of a disaster here as far as the defending is concerned, and it lands us in hot water. Penalty.
Yeah, look, at first glance, I thought Ukesani, got to the ball, but it was desperate, because Urifilejani had everything in control, There was no threat from Uchebak, because Urifile was in control of that moment. I think a lapse of concentration from Ukesani, wanting to win every ball. Yeah. At this level, sometimes give the players respect. This is a professional level, everybody's equally gifted. Everybody deserves to be at this level. So sometimes when a player is with the ball and they are facing their goal or they are moving wide, you don't have to take it. When you look at the numbers we have there, we have about 7 players, versus 3. So a tackle in the box is not needed, because you miss that tackle, a penalty. And it was, given a penalty, and well taken penalty from El Haj. I think technically she is on another level.
Besabuzana ukuthi, is she really a defender? Or a midfield that was converted into defense? Because, I mean, her ability, going up front as just joining the attack, her ability to, run down those lines, making those, what you call it, overlapping passes and just connecting. And the fact that she's a defender with so many assists, like you would think of your Kuliso Modao or your Hoto. She's that type of player.
Technically.
Malmela, she's nice.
Well, I mean, not much that Kaylin could do there. I mean, the power behind that ball, the positioning, the precision of it all was quite a great one. But perhaps they'll look at themselves as far as how that penalty was conceded. 2-0 now. It becomes a hard mountain to climb, but Banyana Banyana, they never say die, of course, and they kept piling on the pressure. And at this point, I think Morocco here, they were caught.
Yeah,
they were caught, but let's give credit to Udlamini, the vision. From a left back position to see that pass, but again, Utembi now staying onside. Something Maestro said is, she uses her speed, but at times she's caught offside. In that moment, she peels off the last, defender from the shoulder of the defender and makes that beautiful run. And once she gets to the ball, a sweet finish with the left foot.
And this is what I always say about Utembi. When you have a player with Utembi's caliber, in your team, you want to create that space for her behind the defenders, meaning as Phuma must defend, and we'd want her to stay back and then allow us to be able to build slowly and progressively until we create such a moment where now Udlamini will be able to pick it up and then find those defense splitting paths Utembi can run into, because I think she's done this for the second time now in this tournament, which is her strength and ability, because Uyagijima and then une technique. Other than that, then it's a bit of a struggle because she's already the last man again, and there's not really much support. She's always left alone up front. So for me, it's, if you have her in your team, make those spaces behind.
Yeah, and you look at, this is the moment. When you look at if Vision, Dlamini in that moment, even in Morocco would think they've got everything sorted. Yeah. They've got 2, 4, 6, 7 players, behind the ball, and only have to deal with Utembi. But Utembi, like you've mentioned, once she gets space behind that last line, she's going to punish teams because she's lightning fast. She makes that run, and Magafia Lapayana, she knows her way around the box. Just a clean finish in the near post. Probably keep us thinking, when you're a striker and you get into that position, they always say go to the far post. Yeah. So maybe keeper was anticipating that it'll go to the far post, and then she catches her on the near post. Well taken goal.
Those near margins that we just saw with that, because it had to go to VAR, is the reason that South Africa will have 6 offsides in this match and Morocco will have 0. Because Tembi's always wanting to play on those margins. I mean, she'll do the U-turn, but she always wants to play on those margins.
And she's quick, Andile. And I think Coach Linda, we spoke earlier, they probably analyzed Banyana Banyana, hence the goal that we saw Ozrai's scoring. Perhaps the analysis was also on Tembi. And if potentially Tembi is playing, what is our game plan? Offside trap. And that's exactly what we saw, hence the offside traps that we've seen, or the offsides that Tembi found herself in. So for me, it's again the analysis that you do holistically. You do analysis of individuals, of I'm a goalkeeper, and as a team as a whole.
Yeah, and then here's another incident where we got so close, to scoring. Moodley comes on in the second half, and instant impact. Yeah. We started getting passes, Umakama on the ball, Refilejane, combining passes in the wide areas. There were overloads. If you can see Nalapayana, a beautiful overload. But a cut back to Moodley, but we got to give it to Okadija, for that save.
Any other day, that's a goal.
Yeah.
On your day?
Yeah. 100%.
That's a goal on your day. Unbelievable.
I think we also need to give credit to her. I mean, as it sits at the moment in this tournament, she's only considered 2 goals. So, I mean, also just looking at how they build up to this WAFCON, they had about 15 goals matches unbeaten, and most of them
they came into this unconceded, in fact.
Yes.
So, I mean, so that's the first goal she's conceded.
It speaks to the coach, his ability to pick the right players and put them in the right places, but also the goalkeeper and how she has dominated.
I got to take it away from you, because that moment there, in the 90th plus 7 minutes, when there's 20 seconds to go, Donnelly, fresh off the bench, comes on does everything right but one.
I thought she would do a hill there. You know, in the game against Cote d'Ivoire, scoring that last-minute equalizer. Lana, she sees the ball coming, but in the last seconds, takes her eyes off the ball.
Yeah.
You know, then completely misses the ball. If she gets contact, because the body angle is correct, she's seen the ball, she sees the goals. So at that moment, it's just to connect with the ball. Langa hlala nje enyaweni. Sihleli manje, it's extra time. We are rooting behind Banyana. Anything is possible.
And what's different, Lapana, they had numbers in the box. Njengoba Osho she had a touch. No goalkeeper mhlambe as we let him over, and somebody was going to run onto it. So it's just unfortunate.
She's going to be thinking about that moment for a long time in her career.
No, she will. Definitely. But look, she's also done well in the last game when she came on as a substitute.
Because she gave the assist.
To Uhilda, you know, with the flick. So
hopefully she thinks about that a lot more than this.
Yeah, Amalanga Ofani.
Our coach of the Banyana Banyana team, a coach that once upon a time was the best in Africa, has now got to open way for others. But what is she feeling at the moment, knowing that her and her team, Dr. Deja Ellis, are out of the WAFCON?
But I can be very proud of the team tonight. You know, we gave it our all. We knew how important this game was. And I think everybody that stepped onto the field, you know, can be proud that they've given everything. You know, we wanted to go this route, but unfortunately it's past now. We're thinking of already the next game coming up, getting ready to prepare for that. We can't cry over spilt milk at the moment, but I can be very proud, and I think the people back home can be very proud of the team's performance.
I mean, she's spot on. We're going to be proud of what they've done, particularly in these last two games. You know, can forgive them maybe for that first one, the second game still dodgy, but the last two games, there was some grit in that.
You know what, Andile, I think something that we need to give credit to is the fact that we have majority of the local base players. That means we are building something for the next generation. You know, there's players who've been consistent, but I think it's high time that we start planning around the new players. So it was well given to the nominee, Coach Desiree and Coach Vilda. They were nominated for the CAF Women's Coach of the Year last year. So I think they've done quite well.
They have indeed. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'm smiling, but my heart, of course not, because Banyana have crashed out. Let's see what you can still look forward to. WAFCON still all goes on, of course, and it'll still be live here on the official broadcaster of the WAFCON 2026. Well, the football continues on SABC Sport, SABC Plus, on SABC One, of course, on DSTV channel 191, where you're going to be seeing tomorrow a huge clash. Amazulu take on Skukune. This is going to be a big clash, and it's going to be live on SABC Sport. Make sure that you do catch it. It's Wafa Wafa. There can only be one. The WAFCON continues as well. We'll still give you coverage of this. One of the most exciting games is this is one of the most exciting games. Make sure that you do catch it. Nigeria, Cameroon, of course, are going to be taking each other on. It's not the last game, though. There are two matches tomorrow. Also catch one of the most exciting teams at WAFCON that has achieved more than they even expected, more than we all thought. But Malawi, tomorrow they take on Ghana. Make sure you catch that at 9:30. We're going to get out of here. Thanks so much for being a part of the show. Bangere bacula, man. You know, it was nice. Man, you and Kulan.
As far as my headset, akukhulumiswa.
Asiphela manje sizobuya.
Iring.
Asoze saphela mandla.
Bye-bye. Good night. Pela. And so...